Well, hey guys. I think we really need to talk about do your own research. This seems to be a very common conversation. A lot of people end up punchlining their belief or their assessments. Do your own research. And I know it frustrates a lot of people I know, because you expect people to know how to do it, right? You expect them to understand what it means. And of course, definition of research is to actually, do by a system, by a methodology, investigate a subject or information, and then take the results of all of that investigation, the methodical research, step-by-step method of figuring out and doing that work. And then after you've finished that work, coming to a conclusion. Now, most people, I think, can agree that if someone has done actual research, they want to be able to have a conversation about it, and they're okay having the conversation about it. But the problem is a lot of people think they're doing research when they're not. And I think when we talk about that, it's partially because most people learn what research is in high school, right? Some kids will learn in middle school and elementary school, but most people will learn in high school what research is. And research actually, to most people in high school, is you're going to read the book and then you're going to write a paper. And that's your research. It's not even close. All right. And I'm going to say this unequivocally. For a kid that skipped 2 grades, I promise you most of you guys do not know what the hell research is. Research is actually reading the book and then researching the author and then researching other people's thoughts or views of the book and then writing that paper, right? A lot of people think I just read the Cliff Notes version, I skim it, I watch the movie. And then right? And you write your paper, and then you wonder why you end up with an F. And that's research. That's what you think is research. As long as you got a C, you're good, right? And that's why a lot of people, I think, once you get into this zone where we are now, you assume that you're doing research when you're not. You're basically doing a web search for shit that fits what you're asking it to tell you. And I'm going to explain it. And then I'm going to explain how you do real research so that everybody has an opportunity, if you want to do it the right way. And understand why you're not doing it the right way right now if you've been doing it the wrong way. Okay? Because you're not going to write a paper on it, right? But you are presenting your ideas to other people. And if you are presenting your other ideas to other people, you want to sound like you know what you're talking about, or you need to shut up. And I'm going to explain why a lot of people have a problem with this, and a lot of people even in college, because depending on what your major was in college, you didn't have to do research either. And this explains why a lot of college educated people don't know how to do research either. Because I was an engineering major. Before that, the first time go around in college, I was a finance and pre-law major. Guess what? Pre-law does actually require you to do research if you know what the fuck you're talking about. But a lot of people skim through it also. They'll just cheat, basically. I mean, they'll cheat the system as much as they can. They'll memorize and regurgitate. And that's not called research. Memorizing and regurgitating does not actually become research because you brain dump. It's gone, right? Poof. So let's kind of talk about why, first of all, when you Google, that's not research. Okay? Google is not doing the work for you. Google is only spitting out what you ask it to spit out. And let me give you an example. So if you type in big potatoes. You want to find the largest potato, that largest brand potato you can buy or grow, right? You want to grow a World Guinness potato. If you Google big potatoes, it will tell you large russet potatoes are big potatoes. If you by accident leave the G off and just BI potatoes, it'll give you a slew of recipes for potatoes. Not what you were looking for. What you were looking for, and if you give, is the largest potato that you could grow to potentially end up with a Guinness Book of World Records giant potato, right? A russet ain't gonna do it. But you put in big potatoes and you thought that was the right answer, and that was going to give you the right answer. So you didn't go any further. You said, oh, russet potato. In fact, a main crop potato is. You have to be very specific with Google for it to give you what you want. Right? So now you put in largest potatoes that you can grow, and it spits out main crop potatoes. You didn't think about that at the time anyway, right? So this is the problem with when you do Google searches. Google gives you what you already asked for. It's not giving you anything new. It's not doing the research for you. It's literally telling you what you asked for specifically. Whatever you asked for is what you're getting. You're not getting anything else. You asked for this is what you get. And where this became a huge problem, and I'm going to use Sandy Hook. All right. This is source subject for anybody that knows what those parents went through. Or anybody that even would fear going through what those parents went through. You people listen to some shitbag, Alex J. Dumbass, and he went and told everybody it was a hoax. And so you searched Sandy Hook hoax, and you got more and more of his bullshit. And he was doing it for clicks. So now Google is paying him for every time that you do a hook search on what he is already trying to sell as nonsense. He's intentionally making it so the Google tags are going into that. And now every time you type that, you don't get real information, you get his bullshit. And then, to make matters worse, there were all kinds of morons that ran out there and started doing the same thing. And now, so when you type in Sandy Hook hoax, this is years ago, Google has since been sued and fixed this. But you would end up being fed the information that you thought you were researching. You literally were feeding yourself with the same bullshit this idiot fed you in the first place. Just because of what you typed in to research. If you don't feel guilty about that, think about it for a while. Think about the fact that you typed something in incorrectly, kept typing it in over and over again, and the more you typed it in, the more research that came back to you exactly as what you were looking for. That's what Google does. It's a machine. Software in a computer somewhere, it's a machine. The software is part of the machine. It's only giving you what you tell it to give you. It's not doing research for you. So we talk about this and then you think, well, what is research then? What am I doing wrong then? Come on, tell me, what am I doing wrong? So I'm going to tell you, first of all, there's some basics to doing research that, yeah, you should probably learned in high school, but you didn't, right? Because, like I said, you wrote a story, but we'll get into an example of why you didn't learn properly in high school. But let's talk about how to research in this process here. So you start to research something. You need to know the topic. Believe it or not, you can't just go blind and start researching. Because if you do, you type in the wrong shit, Google doesn't give you the answer back. Neither will a library card. You could go to the library, you can start going through the indexes the proper old-fashioned way. You can go into encyclopedias. If you don't know what you're actually looking for, you're not going to get the response, the research. You're going to get whatever somebody wants to spoon feed you. And sometimes that's okay. If you want to know what a chihuahua looks like, and you type in what is a chihuahua, it comes up as this little rodent looking dog. Simple. You don't need to know what it looks like. But let's use an example along the same lines. Let's say you do not know that a zebra has black and white stripes. You never seen one before. Clueless. And in the news, there's the birth of an albino zebra. Now, if you don't know what albino means, it means it's a pure white zebra with odd colored eyes. Sometimes they don't have the red eyes, but sometimes they do. But let's say that a albino zebra was born, and you don't know that a zebra has black and white stripes, and you go, well, what is a zebra? Because that albino baby zebra is in the news so much, all that will pop up are pictures of this baby zebra that's white. And all of a sudden you're like, wait. So a zebra is a white horse? No. With a short mane? No, it's not. It's a black and white animal that is close to a horse, like a cousin to a horse. But it's black and white, and you wouldn't know. So imagine arguing with somebody that it's a white animal. It's all white. I've seen millions of pictures of it. I Googled it. I researched it. It's all white. It's all white. You realize that everybody else on the planet's gonna look at you like you're a friggin' idiot, right? That's what you're doing. That is exactly what you're doing when you yell at people that you researched it and they should do their research. They're looking at you like you're a fucking idiot because they've already actually researched it and they're scratching their head, not understanding why you're arguing over a zebra being white and not black and white. Got it? Maybe, maybe not. All right, so you actually have to know something about a topic. You can't just jump into the topic and assume you're gonna know, right? Which is why your teachers used to tell you read the damn book and then do the research for your paper. Oh, right. Most of you didn't do that because what did most people do at the time that you're doing this? Well, you're not reading it, you're getting the Cliff Notes version. So you don't really know what the book's about. You don't really care. You just want to write a paper and get it done, and maybe you get somebody else to write it for you. I don't know. Plagiarism is illegal technically, so maybe that's what you decide to do. But let's say that you pull something up on Google. You got to read it. You can't just read the headline. If anything, now what I've noticed, and this is my own observations, is that those headlines are clickbait. A lot of times they don't say shit like what's in the actual article. They're just clickbait to pull you in. And the problem with a lot of people that scream, do your research, you're not reading past the title. I've had people whip their phones out, look at these titles, CCC, and I'm like, have you read this article? I've read that article from Washington Post. Have you read it? The answer is usually no. I know what it says because the title says. Now the title's clickbait. The title is them attempting to get Google or any of the other search engines to feed you exactly what you've asked for. So you're not doing research. You're being fed what you ask for. So you actually do have to read the research you are doing. You can't just read the first sentence or two. You can't just read the title. You actually have to do the work. Period. And if you're not going to do the work, then don't talk about it because you don't know. And this is where you end up bottlenecked, where you just keep getting the same shit fed to you because that's what you're asking for. And let me explain why this doesn't work using a real book, real author and a real book. So, talk about Charles Dickens. Most people have heard of Charles Dickens. If you haven't, you've heard of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge, right? You've at least heard of that character. That's Charles Dickens. And if you Google Charles Dickens, you'll find out that he was a wealthy man who wrote books, and he was probably what we would call upper middle class now, maybe upper middle class. And then you're going to assume when you go to write your paper that Charles Dickens, in fact, was extremely wealthy, because you stopped there. You just went with what Google fed you, and Wikipedia is not a source. Wikipedia is a start point. Wikipedia is like me going into a library and pulling out a few index cards and going, okay, this book's about him, this book's about him. And then me going and getting those books and then just reading the backs or the inside cover and saying, oh yeah, I know all about him. That's Google, that's Wikipedia. So now you know that he was wealthy, you know he was married once, and oh, that's what you can put in your paper. He made money writing books. What you don't know about him, because you didn't go deeper and you didn't read everything, is that Charles Dickens, in fact, was constantly in financial dismay because he was always giving to people. He was always supporting his parents. His father could not manage money to save his life. So Charles Dickens was such a bleeding heart. He was always giving his money to orphans, especially orphans, orphanages, and then anybody that he met that was down on their luck, Charles Dickens gave all of his own. The man could barely survive sometimes because he was giving everything away. But you didn't know that about him because you didn't bother to read the whole thing. You did not do your research. You half-assed it and let Google feed you a piece of it. And that's what most people do when they say, do your research. I did my research. You didn't do your research. You have to read it all. And you have to, more importantly, read stuff that isn't going to agree with your opinion, which then is another big problem because, yeah, like I said, you're typing in what you want to hear. You're typing in hoax. You're typing in conspiracy. You're typing in exactly the words that certain people are telling you to type in, and then you're getting exactly what they want you to get, because that's how those search engines work. They're a machine. They give you what you ask for. They don't do the research for you. So let's take, okay, so now all of a sudden you're like, well, Charles Dickens was this pauper? He wasn't exactly a pauper. He still had money coming in from all the books and all the articles he's written. But he literally was always constantly giving his money away. And so he's written a lot of books. Most of them are very famous. And I'm going to talk about what some people consider his most famous besides A Christmas Carol, which is A Tale of Two Cities, right? When we get into that next, read it all, do your research. A Tale of Two Cities is, what do you think it's about? Just by the title, you're going to tell me, oh, it's about two cities. It's about two cities. Yeah, well, no, yes and no. It's actually about, partially about the French Revolution. And you can get that off of reading any Cliff Notes version of the book. That it is about the French Revolution and that it takes place primarily in the two cities of London and Paris, and thus the title, A Tale of Two Cities. So now you're all ready to write your paper, right? You've read that and you're like, oh, I'm going to write the paper. It's got about this guy, and one lives in London and one lives in Paris, and it's about the French Revolution. I think I know it. I can wing it from here. I got the Cliff Notes version. The book is actually not about two cities. The book is about two men. It's not really even about the French Revolution, although it is a very strong commentary about the French Revolution and people's rights and things like that. But the actual two main characters of the book, basically, are two men that can pass for each other, like a doppelganger. There's a man that's a doppelganger in France. He's part of the French Revolution, and he's got a family. And the other guy is this Londoner who looks just like him, can pass for him. People that have met either of them would automatically assume the other guy is him. And the guy that's the doppelganger, the British guy, decides that he's going to go to the guillotine in the place of the Frenchman, because the Frenchman has a family and he hasn't got a family, and he's got no reason really, quote unquote, to, stick around. He's got nothing, compared to this man who's going to go to the guillotine. So he decides he's going to go to the guillotine for him. So the book is really about self-sacrifice. If you read Cliff Notes and you handed in that paper, and if you don't know what Cliff Notes is for the kids, it's basically a cheating book that's like about 20 pages long, and it tells you the whole story. And most people that I know that would get those books would read like 3 pages and write their reports and watch the movie, and then wonder why they barely passed or they got a C or whatever, and they'd have conversations usually in order to find out that they were wrong about certain assumptions and have to rewrite part of their papers and just to keep a C or passing grade, D or whatever. But the book is very complex, and I hate the book. I hate the book. I think bullshit, right? Self-sacrifice at that level is huge. And Charles Dickens was a damn dreamer. But to the point that I'm making, if you didn't actually read the book, you didn't actually do the work, you didn't do the research, you came to the wrong assumption that the book was about two cities during the French Revolution. Woohoo! And you totally missed the whole point of the book, which, bizarrely enough, is about a man sacrificing himself for another. It's an interesting book if you get through it. I think it's the worst one that was ever written. But most people consider it one of Charles Dickens' most prolific books. So now, what do you think you get if you search up opinions about Charles Dickens' book? Majority of the opinions of that book are that it's a classic, that it's everything. You just heard me say I hate the book. I hate it. More importantly, I bet you have heard of the book, even though you don't think you have. Most famous first line of any book: it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I bet you've heard it, but you didn't know where it came from because you didn't do the research, you didn't do the work. If it was assigned to you to read it, you never did. All right, so now, you've read everything. You've got to take into account, you can't just go looking for your own opinion. If I type into Google, people that didn't like A Tale of Two Cities, didn't like the book, I can get opinions that all agree with me. It is the very tiny minority of people on the planet. I'm honest. I am one of those people that in this case is like this many people out of a whole room full of people. I'm the only one that's going to hate that book. But if I go on Google and I search it, I can find at least 300 people that agree with me that they hate that fucking book. Out of 7 billion people on this planet, I can find about 300 that agree with me. I just have to type it into Google so that those are the answers that I get from Google. Doesn't mean that that's the prevalent opinion. Doesn't even mean that it's an actual fair assessment of the book. It means that I did a bunch of hunting and pecking by typing in to Google what I wanted, and Google, being the machine it is, that search engine gave me back exactly what I was asking for. You're not doing research. You're asking it to spit out what you're looking for, and it gives you exactly what you're looking for. It's not giving you anything else. So what you need to be asking it is general questions. Tell me this. Explain this. Define this. How do I do this? And even then, you need to read 3, 5 of those things and read the ones that you don't agree with. Because if you're only reading the shit that comes back that you've already asked to be spoon-fed to you anyway, that agrees with you, that's not research either. Like I said, I can easily find 300 people across the whole planet that agree with me that book sucks. It is not the majority opinion. It is not even probably factual. I just don't like the idea that some random guy gave up his entire life for no other reason than he thought that guy's family was important, and since the guy had a family, he gave up his life. I really don't like the ending of the book. I don't like it. I'm sorry. That's it. Right? I can find 300 people that agree with me. Doesn't mean the 300 of us are the tens of thousands of people that have read this book that think it's phenomenal. Tens of thousands, hell, probably hundreds of thousands since it was written in the 1800s. Come on. I can find people that agree with me and believe the same thing I believe. But that doesn't mean just because I can find them on Google by asking the right way that I did my research and that I'm right when I say book sucks. Clearly, I'm in the minority of people that think the book sucks. So you have to then, after you've done all of this, you have to evaluate your sources. Right? I know that all these other people that think that book that sucks, they might not be scholars. They're just average Joes like me. I haven't met an English literature professor that doesn't think that it's one of the best books ever written. If you know one, they probably work at a community college. I'm just, yeah, no. They might argue over whether or not it's the best book that Dickens wrote, but they certainly would put it in the top books ever written. But you have to evaluate the source. Are you going to believe me that, oh yeah, no. Yeah. Nobody likes that book. Nobody likes that book. Nobody likes that book. I don't even have anything to qualify saying that as an actual statement. Like I just said, I can find about 300 people across the planet like me that don't like the book. I also can tell you that almost none of them have any formal education beyond a bachelor's degree. So it's not like they're some doctorate in English literature and they studied this book inside out, left side the other, and can tell me all the little nuances and all those little cookies in the book here and there that would make me maybe fall in love with the book if I realized they were there. I really don't care. I hate the end of the story, period. Right? But I am in the minority of people that will say it's good or that will say it's bad. And I could easily scream at somebody, oh, no. I know. But it would be a lie. It would be a lie. And that's basically what you're doing when you do that. Because you didn't do the research, you didn't do the reading, you didn't do any of the effort to find any other opinions other than the one that you wanted supported that you'd already been spoon-fed anyway. Okay? So now you got to evaluate your sources. I mean, if I didn't evaluate those people that I read, like, oh yeah, this one chick, she's like high school senior. She's like, I hate the book, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I could easily tell you, oh my God, she's an expert. She fucking blah, blah, blah. You know, she's an expert. She hates the book too. She's not. Well, at least when she wrote the blog that I did read about that she wrote, girl just didn't like the book. Neither did I. She didn't even have a high school diploma yet. So you've got to evaluate your sources. You can't just assume that anything you find that agrees with your opinion is already correct. But here's the final key in this, because you don't have to write a paper on this shit, right? You're just doing it supposedly for yourself to increase your knowledge. You're not increasing your knowledge if you're not reading people that you disagree with, ever. There's no increasing your knowledge. Whatever opinion you have formed going in, it is easy today in this day and age for you to just get on one of those search engines, type in exactly what you want back, and for it to spoon feed you information that supports your opinion, your preformed opinion. It's easy. If you really want to do the research, you need to read stuff that disagrees with you. You need to listen to people that disagree with you. At that point, I'll be honest, I periodically, and friends of mine know this, I periodically listen to what I call the propaganda channel. I could barely stand to listen to it for more than 15 minutes to a half an hour, which, oh, by the way, the times that I by accident left it on, it basically is in repeat every 30 minutes. It's saying the same thing over and over and over again, every 30, 45 minutes. It's just the same thing in repeat. It's like brainwashing. If you listen to something over and over and over again, you're going to assume that's right. And then when you go to Google and you're typing in exactly the words that they told you to type in, you're going to get spoon-fed all the information supporting what you just thought. You can't do that. That's not research. That's you with a preformed opinion looking for information that is going to support a preformed opinion. Just like I could easily do that and tell you that that book sucks because I found all these different people that hate the book too. Come on, 300 people out of tens of thousands of people who've read this book since the 1800s. I found 300 online, maybe. I didn't even find that many. To be honest, I think it was more like 30. I mean, I'm like, we're the pinch of the pinch of the pinch of the pinch. The book is great, actually, if you like that kind of crap. But like I said, the end of the book sucks, to my opinion, and so I don't like it. But here's where I qualify that. My opinion is I don't like the book. I've read it. I've researched the book. I know a lot about the author. I know a lot about the other books he's written. I know a lot about the subject matter that he's written about. I understand why he wrote about it. I just don't like the book. That's totally different. And I can say, no, I've done the work. I just don't like the book. But then I have to qualify the fact that I understand that me not liking it is not the majority opinion. And that my opinion is, yeah, okay, it's in my house, who cares? When you do this stuff, put in the work. And if you're not willing to put in the work, then shut the hell up. Stop arguing with people about a zebra that you know nothing about. And if you're only, again, I'm going to push this again. If you're only watching one news source, if you're only getting your information from one place, and then you're Googling whatever they've told you to Google, because that's how it works. You're going to get everything to support yourself, and then you're going to go, oh, I did the research. No, you didn't do any research. Google does not do research for you. What you did was propaganda hunt. You went and looked for a preformed opinion. You got that opinion back. That's not research. Do the work. Do the work. And if you can't do the work, stop talking at people like you did the work, because you didn't. Peace.